YouTube, what's good? It's Khalil the Mechanic back with another video for y'all today. Today I'm gonna be giving you a little guide on what you should be doing and what you should be looking for when you are inquiring about buying a used vehicle. I got a little list here on my phone that I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna also leave a screenshot of it later in the video so that if you decide you want to do this one day, you can go through this either checklist I have on the phone or just watch this video. But I'm gonna be using my truck right here as our example today, and what you'll be doing if you were, say, buying this vehicle. So I'm gonna turn this camera around and get started. All right, so the first thing you want to do before you even go look at the vehicle, you want to do your research on it. So look up common problems that these vehicles have. Look up how much it usually costs to fix it, what mileage or how old the vehicle is before these problems start to occur, things like that. Just to get your idea on, what you might be spending if you have to fix this, or even just simple stuff like this is a truck. It comes with a bigger tire and rim. It is also an all-wheel drive truck, so it is best to replace all 4 tires at a time. So if you're a person who is on a budget sometimes and only can buy 1 or 2 tires, all-wheel drive may not be the best suggestion for you, because 4 tires for this is not as cheap as 1 or 2 tires for, say, a front wheel or a rear wheel drive vehicle. So that's the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do, once you do go up and take a look at the vehicle in person, you want to just give an outside inspection of it. Look for any flaws or dings. You want to look for cracks or anything in broken glass or mirrors, scratches maybe. Anything that can be used as a deduction and make you spend less on this vehicle. So we went all the way around. We looked at all the glass. Glass is okay. You want to also check the headlights and tail lights. I know you've seen before people who have little swimming pools and stuff down here from a cracked or just leaking seal on their headlight or tail light. That is something that you want to keep in mind, because chances are that person probably is repeatedly changing light bulbs in it, because the water kills it every time. So you want to do that for the headlights, the fog lights at the bottom, tail lights in the back, basically any light on the vehicle. The other thing that's very important, especially if you're buying a vehicle up north or somewhere where they get a lot of snow and use salt for the roads, you want to look for rust on the body. Now, certain parts of the car, like the front and back bumpers, they're plastic. You won't see rust here, but the fenders here, usually under the vehicle where I have my running board, all of that is metal. So as you see here, I got a little bit of rust forming down here. It's not bad at all, but rust is important to check for the vehicle, because if, say, the bottom under here where the door is at, if all of that was rusty, then that usually means that the whole undercarriage of the vehicle is rusty. It's something that you usually want to stay away from, because the problem is when it's too much rust, not only does it look bad, it also spreads and it compromises the body of the vehicle. So if it's too rusty underneath it, 1, will not pass inspection, and 2, it'll also make it hard for a mechanic to work on, because they can't lift the vehicle up if it's too rusty. So definitely something to pay a lot of attention to. We also want to check for missing or hanging parts underneath the vehicle, which we don't have any here. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes little clips and stuff just break, but it could also be something important that's doing that. And last but not least, we also want to check our tires and brakes. So the tires we have here are pretty good. You want to obviously check front and back, and then just on the inside here, you want to check your rotors. So if you see all these lines here, depending on how deep they are, the vehicle may be in need for brakes and rotors. So definitely check all 4 of the wheels and keep that in mind. Next thing you're going to be looking for with this vehicle is the interior approach. So we're going to start with just a simple key fob and the functionality. We want to make sure lock works, unlock works, trunk button. All those things are important because obviously you don't want to find out things like this don't work, or if they're stuck closed or don't shut at all. That leaves one, people able to break in your vehicle, and two, it also leaves you not to get in or out of your vehicle. So definitely check and make sure the key fob works. Go around and make sure all 4 doors work from the inside and outside. I'm not gonna do the other side because that's self-explanatory, but check all of the door handles, make sure they work. Pop the hood, make sure that works. You also want to make sure it shuts, because you don't want to have a hood that doesn't shut, because what it will do is if wind gets up under here, it'll flip up like that and keep flipping all the way up, and boom, smack on the windshield. Now you need a windshield and a new hood and the components around it. So definitely keep that in mind. The vehicle has folding mirrors, whether it's manual or automatic. This can go either or. Manual, or there's a button on the inside for automatic. So make sure that works. Not that it needs to work, but if that's a feature you want to use, then you want to make sure it works. Otherwise, you're going to be paying for it. This mirror I actually knocked off this past winter, texting and driving shit. And I found this mirror used for $260. So keep that in mind, because if say this mirror is broken, you can knock a couple $100s off depending on the type of vehicle it is. Another thing, a big thing, which is not anything major but it's still big, you want to just see how clean the vehicle is, especially if it's not a black interior where dirt and stains and stuff show up more. You want to buy a vehicle that's clean. So not that you have to, but you're going to want to detail if it's not clean, which is obviously going to cost $100, maybe a couple $100, depending on who's doing the service and how dirty the vehicle is. So keep that in mind. Also check for the center console and glove compartment. Make sure those open up. They usually have a keyhole so you can lock and unlock it. What else? The adjustable seats, make sure whether it's a power seat or manual, you want to make sure that works, because you don't want to be 6 feet tall and then buy a car from, say, a female, and the seat is up closer and you can't adjust it to you being 6 feet. Or say the power fold seat or manual fold, if you're going to be doing like a lot of cargo work and stuff, you want to be able to utilize all the space you have in the vehicle, which you can't do if stuff is broken. The adjustable steering wheel, you want to make sure that also moves up and down, just in case for leg room. You want to check for ripped seats, whether it's leather or cloth, or cigarette burns. Same for the carpet on the floor. Check for that. That can also be a deduction to the total cost of the vehicle. And you want to check for cracked panels, whether it's a door panel, side panel here for the fuse box or the dashboard, or anything around. You want to check and see if it's cracked or damaged, because if you're gonna want this vehicle to look perfect, then that's another deduction. And very importantly, check and make sure the screens are also okay, not cracked. And when you turn the vehicle on, make sure it works. Same for the gauges or the cluster up here. Make sure there's no obvious damage done to that. And another important thing, say for this vehicle specifically, especially if you're gonna have either short people or just children in general, make sure the running boards work. So this one folds out when you open it, and it folds back in when you close it. So there's not anything hard to fix, but they are very expensive to fix. If you go through the dealer or pretty much anybody, it's anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 per side of the vehicle to fix that. So it's definitely something you want to keep in mind if the vehicle is equipped with that. Plus, it's also a cool feature. So it's pretty much it for the interior and exterior approach. Now we're gonna go ahead and turn the vehicle on, and I'm gonna explain what to also pay attention to when you're doing that. All right before starting the vehicle, you want to check the oil. It is best to check the oil while the vehicle has been sitting because obviously it's pumped all over the motor. So you want it to sink to the bottom of the motor. That way you get a very accurate reading, or at least more accurate reading. The oil for this vehicle is right here. Yeah, just check that before you start it up. And also with starting up, you want to be the one to do it. Not that it's a problem if you get to the vehicle and it's already running when the seller has it running, but you want to be the one to do it because you want to see if there are any issues starting it up. So if you have a remote start, you definitely want to make sure that works. With GM vehicles, actually I don't think it'll work because I got the hood open, but if the check engine light is on, the remote start will be disabled. So that there is already a red flag if you run into that situation, unless they have an aftermarket remote start. But once the vehicle is started, you want to check the dash up here. Check for any warning lights, obviously. Check engine light, ABS light, airbag light, a blinking tire pressure light. If it's just on and constant, then it's probably just air needed in the tire. But if it's blinking, then you have to service one of those tire monitors, which can get pretty expensive sometimes. So keep that in mind. Also, it is handy to bring one of those scanners with you that mechanics plug in or that you get read at AutoZone, because even with, say, no lights on right now, there can still be a check engine light that just hasn't come on yet. So what it can be is, if this vehicle was, say, sitting in a lot for the past 6 months waiting to be bought and the battery died, the check engine light reset itself. As soon as there's no power to the vehicle and the radio says 12 o'clock again, the check engine light resets. So definitely bring a scanner and see if codes still come up when you plug it in, because somebody can definitely get you that way. Also, if it's a cold start, or in other words, if the vehicle has been sitting and it hasn't ran in a while, the RPMs are going to be higher than regular operating idle numbers, or whatever I'm trying to say. So definitely pay attention to that. It's not bad if it's supposed to do that, but if the number is, say, jumping up and down a little bit, or you feel the vehicle shaking, then it's probably a problem there, and it's probably related to the check engine light. It's pretty much it for the dash. You want to make sure all of your windows work, from the driver door and from each individual door, because sometimes, say, all 4 of these will work and then only 2 of the other 3 doors will work. So you will probably have to replace a window switch. You also want to make sure the lock and unlock button work. If they're up here or wherever it's at, check for the heated and cooled seats. Even if it's hot in the summertime, still check and make sure your heated seats work, because say you buy the vehicle in the time like right now is June, you won't find out that the heated seat doesn't work until it's November or December, and by then you've already bought the vehicle. So nothing you can do about it. And replacing or fixing the heated seat is not just a simple thing to fix. So definitely keep that in mind. Make sure all the seat belts are, for one, there, and 2, that they lock in place, because your vehicle will fail inspection without it. Also forgot one more window. Check and make sure the sunroof works, because that's another cool thing to have. If it's a nice summer day and you want to let some extra sunlight in. Make sure all of your steering wheel buttons work. This one has the heated steering wheel, cruise control, and things for the radio, hang up, answer the phone, source, and the volume back here. Focus. It's another cool thing to have, just a convenient thing. Not that you will care about it, but if it doesn't work, you can take a couple dollars off of the tag price on the vehicle. Next thing you also want to check is make sure your HVAC controls work, the AC and heat, or make sure buttons are present, because obviously I know this is fan up, fan down, but if you're just buying this vehicle, a warm button, you can't tell what it is, and you can knock a couple dollars off for that, even though stuff like that can be found in the junkyard for probably $5 or so. The If it's summertime, still make sure the heat works, because again, you don't want to go 6 months of using AC and then find out that, oh, the heat doesn't work, or vice versa. If you're buying it in the winter time, you don't want to find out 6 months from then that the AC doesn't work, because those red lights with no AC is ridiculous. So turn this off. Make sure the touch buttons work on the radio, all of the buttons around it, because obviously you need a radio. Pay attention to sticky buttons or anything like that, because obviously if it's something that you need to use and the button doesn't work, then that's another problem. Not that it's important, but also bring one of these with you. Make sure all of the cigarette lighters work on the vehicle, because all of us use our phones all day long nowadays. You don't want to find out that the cigarette lighter doesn't work, because then you can't charge your phone. So it's pretty much it for the interior stuff, as far as I would say features, I guess. And another thing for sure, if the vehicle is equipped with 4-wheel drive and it has the ability to change from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive, make sure that works. For this vehicle, it will be right here, but this one is all-wheel drive. You cannot turn that on and off, so I don't have anything to show you right now, but make sure the selector works for that, because here in Buffalo, you need 4-wheel drive in the wintertime, or all-wheel. So it's pretty much it for features and stuff. Now, the next thing you want to do, you want to make sure all of the lights work, like fog lights. You're going to turn the headlights on, and to see all 4 blinkers, we're just going to turn the hazards on. So go around, the blinkers work, fog lights are on, headlights are on both sides. Gonna go around to the back of the vehicle. We see blinker working on both sides. What?
Need some help.
So this is also a reason why it's good to bring a second person with you when you're taking the vehicle out, because one of you is obviously gonna have to step on the brake, and the other person is gonna have to stand back here and see if the brake lights come on. The next thing you want to listen for while it's running is sounds and stuff. So we're going to start with the steering wheel. You want to turn the wheel all the way to the left and all the way to the right, and that's all you should hear down there. The tire scrubbing against the ground. You shouldn't hear any clunks or anything like that. All right, so the next thing you want to check for as far as sounds is under the hood. So, of course, it's a motor engine. It's not going to be dead silent. You're going to hear stuff. So if you hear that kind of like very rapid ticking sound, something like that is completely okay. It's just a canister purge valve. It's supposed to do that, so don't let that worry you. But obviously pay attention to sound. Any squeaks or anything that sound like scraping, or anything that's abnormal, which will usually come from one of these pulleys, or it will come from something internal in the engine. And if that's the case, then it may not be the best buy for you, because obviously you have to fix that for the longevity of the vehicle. So keep sounds in mind. You also want to inspect the belt while you're at it. The belt should look smooth like this. If you see something like this, is just a label on it, so that thing you see go by every second is not a problem. But if you see like shredded parts, then obviously you're going to need a new belt. And not only may you need a new belt, the reason for that may be one of these pulleys. So keep that in mind. If the belt has any defects to it, also smell for odors. You pretty much shouldn't smell anything, because everything should be sealed up. There should be no leaks. So if you smell anything, there's probably a problem present. And with that, you're also going to see if the engine is clean or not. And I don't mean literally shiny clean, like say the outside of the vehicle. I mean clean as in free of leaks and other liquids and oils and stuff. So this is pretty much a very healthy motor. It's like no leaks, like you can see it down here where the exhaust is at, or up in here where the valve cover gaskets is at, or anything here or below the belts and pulleys. So if you see a lot of moisture and oily stuff, then chances are there either is a leak present or there was a leak present, which can also lead to other problems. And you would also smell it. So that's something to keep in mind. and also the battery terminals. These battery terminals here are very clean. They don't have all of that greenish, white, bluish stuff caked up on it, which is battery corrosion. There's actually a little bit right here if you're curious what it looks like. But you want to make sure that's not the case, because you will need either new terminals or a new battery itself. So definitely look for that. Make sure while it's running, and it's been running for some time, there are no fluids dripping under the vehicle. But one thing to keep in mind, when you have the air conditioner on, there will be dripping under the car, just like the AC out of a house. It drips water out of the back, so that is okay. So keep that in mind. And then the last sound you should be listening for is the exhaust. The only place in the car that you should hear sound is the back from the exhaust, which back here is right there. That's all you should hear. If you hear any put or hissing or anything under the vehicle here or up front, you probably need either a muffler, a resonator, a flex pipe, something in that nature. And depending on where the leak is at and how big the exhaust leak is, it may also throw a check engine light. So keep that in mind, and definitely check for that type of stuff. And the last thing we're going to check for and do is take it for a test drive. And this is usually where people screw up, because most people simply they start the car up, let it run for a minute or two, take it up and down the street a few times, and they say, all right, it's cool to drive, I'm going to buy it. But that's not the case. We're going to do some real test driving here. All right, so let me clear this message. The first thing that we're going to look for when starting to test drive the vehicle is simply how it shifts from park to reverse and park to drive. You should be able to just throw it down, and that's it. Or same thing to drive, you should be able to throw it down. If you feel a clunk at all or something in that nature, then it either indicates either a bad shift cable bushing, or the need for U-joints in the drive shaft, or axles, or motor mount. Of course, if you're parked on an incline, there will be a thunk, which is completely okay. That's another reason why you should bring somebody with you who kind of knows just a little bit about what they're looking for. But definitely pay attention to that. And now what you want to do is a bunch of stop and go traffic driving. And then you also want to take it on high speed driving, like the expressway. And the reason I say that is if you need some suspension parts like tire rods, ball joints, control arms, or anything of that nature, the problems may not present themselves at low speeds. But once you get faster and faster and the wheels spinning faster, that's when you'll notice that these problems are present. So you may be driving on the street and the steering wheel is just like this at 30 miles an hour. But then when you get up to say 70 in the expressway, you'll notice it shaking like that. So definitely do a lot of stop and go and high speed. The stop and go will be to basically test the performance of the transmission and how well it shifts gears. And the high speed is gonna show how well it drives. And while we're doing that, we're also gonna pay attention to the thermostat gauge here, which pretty much shouldn't move at all. Depending on how hot or cold it is outside, it will move a little bit up and down with the fans turning on and off, which is okay. But if it starts to go like far up past that second or no third line there, then there may be a problem present. You'll notice overheating. And with the stop and go, we're also going to pay attention to how well the car brakes. So I'm going to do a U-turn real quick, and we're going to go down the street. And while driving, you also want to do again the all the way left and all the way right turns, just to see if there are any sounds. It's best to do it with the windows down so that you can hear any and everything that may be wrong. So I'm gonna test out the left and right turns in this little parking lot over here. All right, so we're in a nice open space. I'm gonna turn the wheel all the way to the right. and listen for any sounds. It's completely quiet, which it should be. But also keep in mind, this is a used vehicle you're buying, so not everything is going to be perfect. And now we're doing all the way to the left to make sure we don't hear anything or any rubbing sounds or any grinding or any vibrations, things in that nature. Do that a few times. Do a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Sharper turns maybe if you really want to test it out. Now we're going to start with some stop and go. You want to make sure this number here is going up and then down. That's showing that the gears are shifting. That's what it's supposed to do. If you're in a situation where, say, it just keeps going up and it feels like the vehicle is not accelerating, then you probably have a transmission problem. And if that's the case, you don't want to buy that vehicle unless you don't mind spending $1,500, $2,000, maybe even $3,000 after just buying a vehicle. So definitely test a lot of stop and go traffic. And now we're going to take it on the E-way and test the high-speed performance of the vehicle. Well, look at that shit right there. That shit low-key sweet. Now, also when you're in the E-way, you want to pay attention to this number over here on the right. It should pretty much, like, yes, it will move, but once you're at a cruising speed, it should stay in the same spot. If you notice it going up and down or even a little bit of jerking with the vehicle, then that indicates either a transmission problem or a torque converter problem, which is a big component in the transmission. So if that's the case, then you might want to stay away from that vehicle. So we're cruising at 70 miles an hour. No shaking in the steering wheel. The vehicle rides very smooth. If you do feel any shaking, that could indicate that the vehicle needs, again, some suspension like tie rods, ball joints, control arms, or even some bushing. So definitely keep that in mind if you kind of want to budget, you want to buy the vehicle and just get it right on the road. Because another thing, when you buy this vehicle, you have to have it inspected. And when they inspect it, they're going to check for all this stuff. So if obviously is a faulty part, you have to fix it. So now we are on our way back to where we started. Now we're back to stop and go traffic. I don't even know who the hell that was. Oh, it ain't even my turn. But it's my turn now. Fuck out of here. And another thing to keep in mind, this is Buffalo, New York that we're in right now. So in some areas it may be hard to test how smooth the vehicle rides when the roads that we have to ride on aren't even smooth. That's another reason why I say take it on the expressway, where it's generally just a smoother road surface. Oh, bro. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So do me a favor, if you enjoyed this vehicle or found it helpful, please like and subscribe and share it. And thank you for watching.